Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down the big topics. And today, we are talking about a number, a really, really big number that could pretty much decide the future of our planet. Okay, get ready for this. $1.3 trillion. And no, that's not a one-and-done deal. That's how much experts say developing nations need every single year to fight climate change. It's just a staggering figure, and it's right at the heart of this huge global debate.
You know, for years, we've heard these big promises about climate funding, and frankly, a lot of them have been broken. But now there's a new plan on the table, a really detailed one that's supposed to finally get it done. So the big question is this a real turning point, or is it just more of the same? Let's dive in.
All right, so this plan has a name. It's called the Baku to Belém Roadmap. And its whole goal is to do something that's, well, proven to be pretty much impossible so far. Turn a political promise into an actual working financial plan.
So this was put out by the folks leading the big UN climate conferences, the COPs. And the name itself, Baku to Belém, actually tells you a lot. It's basically drawing a map from the last big climate summit in Baku all the way to the next one in Belém, Brazil. The idea is to finally connect the dots between the promise and a real plan.
And this timeline really lays it all out. You can see it's a multi-year thing. The promise gets made in Baku, late 2024. Then, the roadmap itself gets rolled out during 2025, building up to that big summit in Belém. And it's all pointing to one target year, 2035. That's when that $1.3 trillion is supposed to be flowing, year after year.
Okay, so how in the world are they planning to get to $1.3 trillion a year? Well, the whole strategy is built around these 5 main ideas, which they've packaged up as the 5 Rs. Let's break down what they are.
So you've got replenishing, rebalancing, rechanneling, revamping, and reshaping. And what you can probably tell is that each of these is hitting a different part of the financial system. This isn't just about asking for more aid money. No, this is a plan for a full-on overhaul of the whole system. From easing debt for poor nations and making it safer for private companies to invest, all the way to changing how governments and even banks think about climate risk in the first place.
So, it's a really bold plan, right? Ambitious, for sure. But is it actually realistic? Because pretty much as soon as it came out, experts started pointing out some major hurdles that could stop this thing in its tracks.
Yeah, the timing here is tricky, to say the least. As climate economist Ulke Kelker points out, this whole roadmap is landing at a time with a ton of geopolitical tension. A lot of the wealthy countries that would need to fund this are, well, they're shifting their money away from climate and pouring it into military and defense instead. And look, to really get why people are so skeptical, you just have to look at the track record. There was an earlier promise, right? $100 billion a year. It was way smaller than this new goal. And they consistently missed it. That history of failure has created this huge trust gap, which makes this new, ridiculously ambitious goal look like an even taller mountain to climb.
And we're not just talking about vague problems. The hurdles are really specific. For one, the COP presidents have basically said this plan is not up for debate. It's a take it or leave it kind of deal. Meanwhile, a lot of developing countries are worried this is just going to saddle them with even more debt. And we're already seeing some key donor countries, like the UK, saying no thanks to new climate funds. That really puts the whole idea of good faith participation to the test, doesn't it?
So, okay, beyond all the money and the logistics, this whole conversation really gets into something deeper. It's about fairness. It's about this idea of climate justice. And Dr. Manish Kumar Srivastava really hits on a core problem here. He points out there's this massive disconnect. You have developing countries asking for financial help under certain terms, but the money that's actually being offered comes with all these different strings attached. We're talking complicated, bureaucratic hoops that are just incredibly tough for these nations to jump through.
And you can actually see this fairness issue right in the numbers of the plan itself. If you take a closer look at where the roadmap says the money should go, well, there's a pretty clear bias.
Okay, check this out. 2/3 of the money needed is earmarked for clean energy projects. Things like big solar farms that are commercially viable, things that can make a profit. That leaves only 1/3 for stuff like adaptation, protecting nature, and helping communities transition. The social issues that are at the very heart of climate justice, but don't really offer a big payday for investors. So, with all these challenges, all these internal issues, where does that leave us? Is this roadmap doomed from the start, or is there still a path forward? Well, here's the thing. Despite all the skepticism, and there's a lot of it, Most experts do seem to agree on one key point. Just having this detailed roadmap is a huge step forward. For the very first time, we've moved beyond just a vague political promise. Now there's an actual document on the table with a concrete financial plan. And it's kicking off some really interesting conversations about new ways to find this money. People are seriously talking about ideas that might have seemed radical before. Things like a global tax on billionaires, using the IMF's special reserve currency, or creating these big international guarantee funds to make it less risky for private money to jump in.
So, at the end of the day, here's the takeaway. The blueprint is there. The architectural plans have been drawn up. But a blueprint is just a piece of paper. It takes real political will, a real good faith commitment from everybody involved to actually pick up the tools and start building.
And that really leaves us with the billion, or rather trillion-dollar question, doesn't it? The plan is on the table. The roadmap is there. But will all that talk of commitment finally turn into real action? That's what the next decade is all about.